Medication, antidepressants, anxiety medication. Oh my gosh. So I personally have taken over 10 different SSRIs slash anti-anxiety medications. I don't remember exactly what their name is. What you call that? Slash bipolar medications slash antipsychotic medications. I've taken over 10 of all these combined different types of medication, and none of them worked. None of them worked. I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, bipolar 2, and at one point I was even on lithium to help with my suicidal ideation. But none of it worked. None of it worked. And why didn't any of it work? Because they more or less are there to sedate you. They're there to sedate you. There was one point where I was on 3 different medications. I was on a bipolar medication, an anxiety medication, and a medication for depression. And I just remember that time being the most chaotic time in my life. Even though there was nothing going on. I was at home for the semester. I wasn't enrolled in school. But it was the most chaotic time of my life because I could not tell if I was actually getting better or if it was just the medication working. And that is the single most confusing and excruciating and enraging thing about medication is you can't tell if you're actually getting better or if the medication is just starting to work. And so you just end up going through all these trials where you're like, oh, well, that didn't work, so I'm going to try a different medication until like I find my perfect happiness cocktail, which I see people talk about on TikTok or Instagram, where they're like, when I finally get the perfect combination of medication to start feeling better. And you're never, ever going to find true happiness while being on medication. It's not going to happen. At least for medication for emotional and mental reasons. You're not going to find it. It might be different if you're on a medication for physical medical reasons, but for the 4+ years when I was on medication, I can tell you I was never happy. Like the happiness that the way that I felt while I was on those medications doesn't compare at all to how I felt when I was just a kid on no medications at all and just happy. You know, isn't that kind of what you're trying to get back to? Is that feeling you had as a kid before you were tainted by your parents, your experiences, and everything else? But the reason why these medications don't actually end up making you better is because they suppress your emotions. Your emotions are the key to your happiness. Your emotions are the key to you finding peace and relaxation. So I came to find the reason why I was depressed and anxious. It's because my parents never taught me to cry. It's that simple. And it pisses me off because I went to over 5, maybe 6 different therapists and a couple more psychiatrists, and none of them asked me about just simple questions about my emotional well-being. Like if I'm crying, if I'm allowing myself to get angry, to feel this range of emotions. How can you expect to ever achieve the end result of peace and relaxation and contentment if you don't feel all of your emotions along the way? Because your relaxation and your peace that you're trying to get to, that is a result of feeling and processing all of your emotions. So I'm just realizing, like this year, I just came off of medications about a year or 2 years ago, and I'm just learning this year, when I'm 23 years old, I'm just now learning to cry. And that is such a tragedy. It is such a poor job of parenting and a poor job done by the mental and emotional health system that none of the therapists or psychiatrists I saw asked me if I was crying. It's that simple. That's how you process your emotions. And especially as a guy, I never saw my dad cry. I never saw any of my uncles cry. I never saw my grandfathers cry. And they wonder why they're not happy. They wonder why they have this pit in their stomach. It's because you don't allow yourself to be sad. The happiness that you're after is underneath all of these emotions that you're avoiding. It's underneath all of the sadness, all of the depression, all of the anxiety, all of the anger. After that is where you get to this happiness that you're wanting. Because the happiness that you're wanting is essentially this state of internal peace that you felt as a kid when you were just playing with toys in your room and not really worried about, making friends. You weren't worried about success. You were just happy. And why is this? It's because when you're a kid, you experience all of your emotions fully. You don't get afraid of certain emotions and put them off later. No, you never do that when you're a kid. You experience your emotions, all of them, right then and there, no matter what they are, and you let people know. And if you want to be happy like you were as a kid, relaxed, at peace like you were as a kid, you need to start feeling all of your emotions like you did as a kid. Yes, all of them. I'm not saying anything about taking action based on your emotions. I'm not saying that if you're angry, you need to start having fits of rage. I'm talking about feeling your emotions intensely and deeply in your chest, in your stomach. You need to feel that tension that is in your stomach and in your chest. You're not going to find happiness by reading these self-help books and finding these little quotes to put up on your wall or to have as your wallpaper on your phone. That's not happiness. Happiness comes from your emotions, No matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how many self-help authors you read, no matter how much therapy you go to, if you don't actually access your emotions, you're never going to be happy, because happiness comes from your emotions. It's that simple. It's right in front of your face. You got to really think about what you were doing as a kid. Yes, you were happy and relaxed a lot, but you also were upset a lot over really small things. And how can you expect to even get happy about small things if you don't let yourself get upset about small things? To cry about small things. To cry when you see a goose crossing the road with its little baby gooselings behind it. Like, you can't get happy at things like that if you don't also get sad at seeing roadkill by the side of the road like you would as a kid. That's how simple it is. You need to allow yourself to be sensitive to the negative and uncomfortable emotions if you want to also be sensitive to the positive and comfortable emotions. It's so simple. And I'm not saying that medication for your mental or emotional health can't be a short-term fix, because I believe if you're really in the depths of despair and you don't want to be here anymore, then at that point, your survival is more important than your enjoyment of life. So then, taking lithium, antidepressants, antipsychotics might be necessary. But do not waste your time trying to concoct this perfect cocktail of medications and pills, because it's never going to make you happy. When you were a kid, playing with toys in your room, watching Disney Channel, how many medications were you on when you were feeling that intense feeling of peace and happiness? Zero. You weren't on medications for your emotional and mental health when you were at your happiest. So you can't add more medications to get closer to that state you were at as a kid of happiness. There's no amount of medications you can ever reach. And what really pissed me off was when I would go into my psychiatrist or my psychologist's office and they would propose a new medication to me when I told them one wasn't working. But what if the problem is not this medication or this medication? What if it's all of them? What if it's the fact that you're giving me medications for my emotions instead of just teaching me how to process and feel my emotions? It's really that simple. It's so simple. Your emotions are the key to your happiness. The pain that you're avoiding, that you don't want to feel, your avoidance of that pain is the reason why you're not happy. It's that simple. So taking medication to avoid your depression is not going to fix your depression. The only way you fix your depression is by going through it. You have to feel that depression. Feeling depressed is normal. Feeling anxious is normal. Feeling suicidal through all these emotions, it's normal. It's a normal reaction to all these emotions that you're having. And it's a normal reaction to avoiding these uncomfortable emotions. It's only going to get worse the more you avoid it. Something that I realized in a quote that I kind of came up with to remind myself of this is that I'm trying to remember it. Wait, give me a second. Let me think. Oh, it's this. Pain only hurts when you don't want it to. Sorry for the delay there, but pain only hurts when you don't want it to. And it's a very strange phenomenon because on the face, that doesn't make any sense, right? One second, I'm going to get a water. But on the face, it doesn't really make sense, you know? How could pain only hurt when I don't want it to? But once you start feeling your pain, you'll see what I mean. Once you start feeling those sensations in your chest that you don't want to feel, the uncomfortable sensations of sadness, anger, rage, depression, once you feel them, you'll realize they don't hurt anymore. It's kind of like whenever your hand is the same temperature as the water, you can't feel the temperature anymore. Like if I were to stick my hand in the freezer for a minute or so and then stick it into cold water, the water isn't going to really feel cold, you know? It might even feel warm. But my point is, once you dip your hand into pain, it doesn't hurt anymore. The only way that the pain hurts is when you're avoiding it. And that makes perfect sense biologically, because pain is the way that your body gets your attention to address the issue, to address the pain. That's the same reason why it hurts when you scrape your knee. If it didn't hurt, you wouldn't draw attention to it. But once you start drawing your attention to it, you can do this with physical pain as well. But once you actually feel your physical pain, it stops hurting, because your body knows that, oh, now he's addressing the pain, so I don't need to keep sending these pain signals to the brain. So it's not necessarily your pain that you're afraid of. You're afraid of your fear of your pain, which is kind of weird. But yes, you can have feelings about your feelings, and then you can even have feelings on top of that. So it's probably not your pain you're afraid of. You're afraid of the fear of that pain. You don't want to feel the fear. You're afraid of your fear. But you need to realize that your emotions are not bad. There are no bad emotions. None of them are bad. You need to feel all of your emotions if you ever want to get to the end result of inner peace or inner relaxation. That is a result of feeling all of your emotions. So your objective or your goal shouldn't necessarily be to be happy, because then you're just going to start focusing on all the positive and comfortable and familiar emotions. Your goal should be to feel all of your emotions in all of their entirety. And the result of that will be the peace and the happiness that you deeply desire. I promise. That is, your emotions are, they're the pain receptors for your psyche, essentially. Like, you have pain emotionally in the same way that you have physical pain. And in the same way that your physical pain needs to be addressed, your emotional pain needs to be addressed too. It's how you learn. It's how you grow. There's no reason to be ashamed of your shame or to be afraid of your fear. How can you expect to ever, become happy and relaxed and at peace when you're afraid of certain emotions that you have? When you're not treating all of your emotions with compassion and you're not giving them all equal attention? Whenever you avoid certain emotions, you're essentially cutting out parts of yourself and ignoring them. Every single emotion that you have serves a very important purpose in your life and in your health and well-being. So if you just pick and choose, well, you're going to have a very limited range of emotion, and you're going to have a very limited extent of relaxation and peace. So if happiness is over here and you have sadness over here, and you decide, I don't want to feel sad, well, guess what happens when you reduce the sadness that you feel? You also reduce the happiness that you feel, because essentially what's happening is you're reducing your sensitivity to your own emotions. So whenever you become less sensitive to sad things, you're also becoming less sensitive to happy things, to positive things. You can't just pick and choose your emotions. It doesn't work that way. It's not possible. Anytime you select out an emotion, you might as well just select out a positive emotion, because they're all tied together. They're all tied together. It's kind of like how scientists will tell you there's no such thing as cold, really. Like, cold isn't a thing. It's just a lack of heat. And that's kind of how you should look at sadness or shame. Like, sadness isn't necessarily separate from happiness. Sadness is just kind of like a lack of happiness. And shame is just a lack of pride. Like, they're tied together on the same string. So if you try to not feel shame, well, then you're never going to feel pride because they're tied together on the same string. Shame is just a lack of pride. Shame isn't really a thing. It's just what we call a lack of pride in the same way that we call cold a lack of heat. So whenever you are potentially starting a medication for your mental or emotional health, don't make it your objective or goal to find an ideal medication. Don't do that. It should be very short term, very, very short term. A couple months maybe. It shouldn't be much longer than that. I know everybody's situation is different, but you're not going to find the happiness you're after by medicating, by self-medicating. It's not how you find happiness. I mean, why would it be? It doesn't make sense. Like, do you think that before SSRIs and stuff were invented, do you think people were just never happy before that? No, of course not. People were happy way long before we had all these different medications for mental health. And when you become reliant on a medication, you're just essentially kind of betraying your emotions. You're betraying your uncomfortable emotions and saying, I'm not going to acknowledge you. And so that's why people that are on medications become numb. Like, it's not surprising. Whenever you become reliant on a medication, you're going to become numb after a certain amount of time. You're going to have to up your dosage. You're going to have to change to a different medication. You're going to have to change up the cocktail a little bit. Because that's not how happiness in the body works. That's not how it's made to be. Your body wasn't made with the intention that you would need medication for your emotions. Your emotions are the medication. Your emotions are the medication. And it might make you feel better in the short term when you have these medications for your anxiety and such and such and such. But it's still missing the point. It's still missing the point. And I hate how it's what the mental health profession has come down to, is avoiding emotions almost. Like, you're going to feel better for a short term, but the objective of your emotions is not necessarily to make you feel better. That is a result, sure, but the objective of each of your emotions is not to make you feel better. It's to draw attention to these different issues that are happening in your life. If someone hurts you, you need to feel that pain so that you don't repeat the same mistake by engaging with that person and allowing them to hurt you, so you can learn, right? Like, if you didn't feel pain when you scraped your knee, you probably wouldn't be too worried to go and do reckless things like ride your skateboard without knee pads or something. You're probably going to go do it again. And over time, that's going to destroy your knee. So the pain is a good thing. It's good that you have that pain so you don't destroy your knees and so you can continue to walk. And it's the same thing with emotional health, because your emotions impact your decision making. It's even more important than your physical health, because your emotional health can directly impact your physical health. If you don't allow yourself to feel emotions of fear, then you're going to continue putting yourself in dangerous situations that could literally harm your physical well-being. And as I saw in my case, what can also happen if you suppress certain emotions, if you suppress feeling pain that others caused you, is whenever you have kids one day, for example, let's say that you were hurt by your parents, but you never really acknowledged that pain. You never allowed yourself to feel it. Well, now when you have kids, you're not going to be able to necessarily sympathize with your kids, because they're going to have certain emotions that you need to be able to sympathize with, but you can't sympathize with them because you haven't processed those emotions yet. So when your kid really needs you and wants your emotion and your attention, you're not going to be able to give it to them because those emotions are underneath all of the unprocessed trauma and unprocessed pain you have from your parents. So you just end up continuing the cycle, and you're going to become emotionally disconnected from your kids, and your kids are going to hate you. They're not going to want to be around you. Or even worse, they're going to adjust and they're going to turn out just like you, and they're going to have kids, and eventually you're going to have grandchildren or great-grandchildren that are drug addicts or people that are in such immense emotional pain, and they have no one there to sympathize with them. And so they are reliant on self-medicating permanently because no one is there to show them how to access their deep emotions and how to feel them. So hopefully this message will get out there to people that need to hear it, that are trying one medication and then 2 medications, 3 medications, and wondering why they're not happy. It's because that's not how happiness works. You need to feel all of your emotions. It's okay if you feel bad. You need to accept that, validate all of your emotions. If you feel bad, be okay with feeling bad. Learn to love your fear, love your shame, love your guilt, love your embarrassment. Give the same amount of attention you would give those emotions as you would give to happiness, joy, elation, excitement. The same attention those emotions get needs to be given to the negative and more uncomfortable emotions that you're not as familiar with. This is how you become healthy. This is how you become emotionally healthy and a well-rounded human being. And when you're validating your negative emotions, like anger, sadness, guilt, shame, you don't necessarily need to be validating any actions to go with that. If you feel like hurting someone because you're so angry with them, you don't need to validate the action of hurting them. You don't need to go and hurt people. The action is not going to resolve the feeling. The only way you can resolve your feelings is by feeling them in all their entirety. And remember, they might feel painful, but it's only painful because you're avoiding them. It doesn't actually hurt when you feel it. Like I already said before, pain only hurts when you don't want it to. You need to let the pain hurt, and then it won't hurt anymore. It's strange, but it's true. This is how it works. The pain is just there to draw your attention to the wound. So, thankfully, addressing emotional pain is almost easier than physical pain, because you don't necessarily need any tools. You don't need any bandages. You don't need any cream. You don't need any ointment. You don't need a professional necessarily to open you up and operate on you. The only thing you have to do is use your attention and fix your gaze upon your wound, and it will mend itself. You need to let yourself cry, let your chest shake, let yourself tremor and shake if you need to. But that's all you have to do to heal your internal emotional wounds. That's it. You just have to feel it and let yourself cry, shake, tremble, whatever. But yeah, don't be upset with your emotions or with yourself whenever you're not feeling well, because the first purpose of your emotions is to keep you alive, not to make you feel good. That'll be the end result down the road whenever you felt all of your emotions. But you need to feel all of your emotions, and if you don't feel well, that's okay. It's okay. That's normal. That's perfectly normal to not feel good, because you're feeling sad. But once you allow yourself to feel sad and you allow yourself to cry and feel angry, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to feel so much better. It's going to feel good while you're doing it. While you're crying, you're going to feel yourself slowly getting better. Maybe just a very, very small amount. But your head will start to clear up. You'll have your memories that you didn't even realize you suppressed. They're going to start coming back up again because you're allowing yourself to feel. And so much of your being, your memories, who you are, is attached to your emotions. So when you suppress your emotions, you're also suppressing memories. You're suppressing things you enjoyed. You're suppressing desires that you once had that you kind of forgot about, things that you wanted to do. So there's no positive outcome to suppressing emotions, not in the long term. You can lie to other people about how you feel, but don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself about how you feel. Your emotions deserve your attention. And maybe your parents didn't give you attention when you were experiencing these uncomfortable emotions like sadness, grief, guilt, shame. They didn't give you attention for those emotions. So what you need to do is you need to give that same attention that you wish you had gotten from your parents. Just imagine the attention you wish you would have gotten from your parents when you were experiencing those emotions, and give that attention to those uncomfortable, negative emotions. And that is how you can slowly start healing. But never let anyone tell you, never believe them when they tell you that medications for your emotions and mental health are the end all be all. It's not part of the journey. No, it's not how you get better at the end of the day. It can help you maybe survive for a moment, but it's not how you get better. Medication is not how you heal your emotions. It's never going to work for you. So if you're feeling emotional pain, just feel it. It's normal. It's okay. Just feel your pain, and it's not going to hurt whenever you're actually feeling it in that moment. It will only hurt if you don't allow yourself to feel it.